Today's guest is Paul Silky Jones, a retired professional boxer who knows how to fight. Light middleweight world champion and now author of the book, I Wore a Crown. In the ring, Paul built a reputation on discipline and unwavering ambition. Paul isn't here today to tell a comeback story, he's here to tell the truth. His book, I Wore a Crown, lays it bare: ego, denial, and the moment when pretending you're okay stops working. This isn't motivation talk, it's consequences, it's accountability, and what happens when a fighter finally admits he's human. This is Paul Silky Jones. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. I've been really looking forward to sitting down and meeting you and learning more about you.
Well, fire away.
Well, I will. I'm going to fire away with the first question, really. But I'm really keen to know what made you decide to tell this story now rather than earlier in your life, Paul?
I think, when you're a lot younger, I see a lot of athletes or former professional sports people who they do a book, an autobiography very early in the 20s and stuff. I don't think you really know yourself when you're in your 30s in your 20s or 30s. So yeah, I know more about myself. I understand what happened, and I can explain it better. So, and I'm 59 now, so I've lived a lot of life, and I think it's the right time.
Okay, thank you. So I want to just learn a little bit more about you, and probably going back a couple of decades now, if I may.
Yeah.
So take me back to that night when you won the WBO light middleweight championship.
Believe it or not, it was 30 years ago, but
I don't believe you.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a different hairstyle, I think. But yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, it was the pinnacle of my career. Everything I'd dreamt of and worked towards. I knew I went in there knowing that there wasn't a lot of people what believed I was gonna, win. And I even had a journalist, the late Colin Hart. He phoned me up after the fight and said he'd spoken to his editor, and there was a clash between the European football, and the World Title fight. And his editor said, what chances Jones got of winning? He said none, absolutely none. So they decided to not cover the fight in the first time ever. They didn't cover the fight in the Sun newspaper. So yeah, I had no one believing I was going to win, apart from my team. And I know there was people ringside what came to watch me lose.
Really?
It's something I always believed in from a child.
But how did that feel when you've got people who are sat in the crowd who are there to watch you lose? Did you know that before you went into the ring?
So you're in the changing rooms, and you only, basically you and your team, and now and again you allow somebody to come in. And there was 3 guys what turned up. 2 of them were boxers, and the other guy was just a friend of theirs. And they all came in, and I knew what they were thinking. They came in to see the condemned man, and they felt uncomfortable what they saw, because they didn't expect to see the energy I was giving off. So it was nothing new to me.
But still must be very challenging. I mean, if going out and you're just about to have the fight of your life, you're out there to go and claim a world title, and you've got people not necessarily in your corner, but you've got people in your changing room who are looking at you thinking, "Ooh, actually, you might got off a chance now."
Yeah, I mean, you've just got to be very strong-minded. You keep on the track what you're there for. So
we're going to talk about discipline shortly, because I'm really interested to learn more about your winning mindset and what you've done and how you found yourself in that position. But I want to just talk a little bit more now about the younger years, if I may, pre-boxing. So when you look back at your childhood before you were sent away, and we need to put some context around what that actually means, what memories or feelings still stay with you most strongly?
I mean, just upset and yeah. When I think about it, which I don't really think about it often, you know, looking back, I feel sorry for that young boy. So that's it.
So could you just elaborate on that a little bit and tell me, you know, what actually happened
Yeah,
for those who haven't read your book yet?
yeah. So when you say sent away, I was actually, I was like the only boy out of five sisters. I was kind of what they call spoiled. So anything I wanted, I got. And I'd watched a series called Roots, and I wanted to find out about my background and where my, you know, different my older generation came from. So you know, I like I say, I hugged and bugged my parents to send me. I had an uncle what came over to the UK, so I asked him about Jamaica and what it was like, and then when he went back, I was only about 8, and when he went back, it took me like a year or so, a year and a half, and I hugged and bugged my parents, and they agreed to let me go. So I went there, thinking, yeah, I think you know, my parents, their dream was to follow, and they were going to sell up and follow, but you know, things in life don't work like that. So they didn't, they didn't come. And by that time, I was trapped. I couldn't escape. I couldn't get out. All my letters were monitored, and you know, they told me for spelling mistakes, but
Right.
but I also realized I couldn't write anything in the letters.
Okay.
So
You were left alone.
yeah, I was left alone.
That must have been frightening.
Yeah, it was at times, and you know, I mean, looking back now, I used a lot of reverse psychology on myself. I wouldn't show anything. I learned not to show anything to the people who were supposed to looking after me. I made sure I didn't. But, I mean, I wasn't going to get any satisfaction out of them seeing me upset. So you know, I was like switching off. I was only switching off my feelings when it came to, you know, like, sorry, my feelings were only shown when I went to bed. I was like, you know, I'd often cry myself to sleep, and you know, think about getting back at home, but at that time I also thought I'm not going to be able to get back until I'm 18. So you know, it was after 3 years, it was a massive breakthrough to be able to kind of be savvy enough to, you know, write a letter at school and send it to my parents and post it on the way home. But, you know, I had to wait until I was 13, and I was thinking differently.
So you had to do a lot of growing up and a lot of self-development.
Correct, yeah.
And that probably happened once you were at school as well, and you were around other people possibly and other teachers, and starting to think, actually, perhaps this isn't quite right. And
Yeah,
the only person that can do something about it is me.
that's right, yeah.
So when you reflect on those, and I'm going to call them traumatic experiences because they sound like they were, particularly for a young boy, you know, away from home with family who you would expect to be loving you and hugging you and caring for you, and it didn't sound like that was your experience. So looking back on those experiences, you know, what emotions still surface, if any, and how do you actually deal with them in your adult life? Not just on an intellectual level, but on an emotional level.
I mean, disbelief comes to mind. I mean, like it will anybody, you know, what reads my story and obviously this podcast and stuff. So they'd think the same. So there's a lot of disbelief there, and I mean, acceptance of what's happened really.
So acceptance has been a key
Yeah.
to your life, really.
Yeah.
So when did you realize that boxing was your thing? What age and where were you?
I was over in Jamaica, and I watched I Am the Greatest, a Muhammad Ali film, and it kind of, I got a lot out of it because Muhammad Ali was 12, when he decided to fight because he had his bike stolen, and I was around about the same age. He said he was going to beat the guys who stole his bike, and I watched this film, and it gave me a lot because I started making a plan. And I thought, I'm going to learn to box, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to physically beat the people who are looking after me.
Yeah.
So it kind of gave me something to look forward to. And it was a promise I made to myself. And, you know, it was upsetting many years later on while I was in the boxing world, and I was desperate to be a champion. And I was telling people I need to be a champion because I needed to be a champion because my uncle had said to me, you're never going to be anybody. You're never going to do anything in life. And he was more verbal than his wife, who was the physical beatings and stuff. And he, I remember him, I was tried looking away while he was saying this to me, and he kind of pulled me around, so he got my attention. So I had to look him in the face, and he kind of repeated it very often, that you're never going to do anything in life. You're going to be worthless. So I desperately wanted to be a champion because, you know, you realize by the time you're 13, you realize your strengths. And I wasn't academic, but I knew if I became a fighter, I'd give it my all. And when I became a fighter, I was desperate. I was telling people, and I was asking everybody, please get me an opportunity, get me an opportunity. I knew I had something inside me where if I got that opportunity, I'd be able to step up a level and you know, achieve what I promised myself to, just to prove to myself that I weren't worthless, and I had a lot about myself. I had that championship capability.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you for sharing that.
Pleasure.
So when you were younger, so you're sort of 12 years old,
Yeah.
you're in Jamaica,
Yeah.
you want to be a boxer, you're watching Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Well, how did your uncle take that when you said to him you wanted to go and start training?
Did you not? Never spoke to him about it, and obviously I didn't get any opportunities. So, you know, I just the promise just carried me. The promise I made to myself.
Yeah.
And I, you know, whether it's physical or verbal bashings, I had that promise inside. I was the only one knew about that up until then.
Okay.
I had it, and it carried me through because I thought, if I stick to this plan, one day I'll come back and you know, I'll get hold of him.
Yeah.
And I stuck to the plan and you know, got where I wanted to get.
Okay. And did you ever get into any scrapes at school then, in the playground? Because you've got something like you had a huge amount going on.
Yeah.
Emotionally very challenging. When you've got people telling you, your uncle telling you that you're never going to amount to anything, and then your auntie is physically beating you, that will come out somewhere. It has to.
I mean, I was fighting from the age of 5, believe it or not.
Okay.
Before I left and went there, so I was like, you know, fighting the older boys and stuff. And then when I was in Jamaica, it was terrible at first in the first school I went to, because, you know, I had a different accent, and, you know, I just seemed to be a victim of attempts to beat me up. So yeah, I didn't turn the other cheek.
No.
I fought back, and then I mean, you know, then when I came back to England, had the same problem because I had a different accent. So yeah, I've got into you know, more than the average person gets into in scrapes.
But that Steel City grit never left you.
100% never left me.
Natural talent.
Yeah, apparently I was told so.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
And you've demonstrated it time and time again. In the book, you talk about learning to sort of shut down emotionally in order to survive. What did that protect you from at the time, and what did it cost you later on in life?
I mean, at the time, it protected me from the abuse I was getting. You know, yeah, just really protected me from what was happening at the time, and it carried me through.
There's often a point where someone realizes they've been carrying pain that was never theirs to carry. Did you ever reach that point?
Yes, and so it was 1995, 14th of April. I was in Belfast, and I was going to fight for a championships and champion opportunity. I'd really been begging for a long time. So I'm just about to fight. I'm fighting somebody who used to be kind of classed as a friend at the time, and is a friend now. So I was fighting Damon Denny in his backyard, and because I was so in love with the fact I was fighting for a title, up until getting to his backyard, I was oblivious that I was gonna be up against it. So in the changing rooms, I had a meltdown, and I was agitated and was pacing up and down, and my trainer came in, and I said, I need to speak to you. And I was carrying this weight. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was carrying this weight, and I've been carrying it for such a long time. I've been carrying it since I was in Jamaica, that I needed to be someone. I need to be a champion. And so, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
In your own time.
So, yeah, I needed to be a champion. I was desperate to be a champion. And they were playing mind games. They were coming in saying, you're on now. No, you're on in half an hour. You're on in 45 minutes. I just wanted to get in that ring because I wanted that championship. So, yeah, my trainer, I said to my trainer, I need to speak to you. I said, and he knew straight away, Alex Gow, he knew straight away. He said, okay, let's go around the back. And we went out the building around the back. I said, I need this. And he said, I know. I said, no, you don't understand. I need it so bad. And he went, how bad do you need it? I said, I need it so bad I could cry. And he said, cry. And it was like, push the button. And I burst into tears. And in that changing room, I'd been seeing everything. I could see my uncle saying, you're never going to be anyone. You're never going to achieve anything in life. I could hear myself telling my dad, oh, this year I'm going to be national champion. I'm going to do this. And it never happening. And I could see so many things. And then also my sons are thinking, they're not old enough to understand, but later on they're going to understand. I need to be a champion for them. And when I cried, all that weight just fell off my shoulders. And, you know, I walked out and it looked like I was in my backyard how I walked out to the fight. And I won the fight in the first round. And that was just like, I had to go through that, I think.
Yeah.
To get rid of that weight.
Yeah.
The weight was like tension, what had been building, and it was weighing me down, physically weighing me down. After I got rid of that, it was just completely different feeling.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That sounded like a really sort of cathartic and beautiful moment and experience. And had you not have had it, the fight could have gone a different way.
Could have gone a different way.
Life could have gone a very different way.
100%.
And I think that, you know, being able to demonstrate an emotional side, you know, as a boxer, as a fighter, you know, must be quite a challenging thing because there's a lot of ego in there and bravado, and, you know, but I think it shows real strength, and I think it shows real character and honesty.
Yeah.
That you can allow that to come out and flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talk about not allowing things to live in our head rent free. taking the power out of something, which is sound like what you did at that point in
Yeah.
time, and being with a trainer that was allowed you to do that and supported you.
Yeah, I felt secure, I suppose, with Alex to be able to do that.
It's a big thing, isn't it, to feel safe
Yeah,
in those situations, because, you know, feelings are tender and feelings are very precious, and if we're going to let somebody else see them, we want them to take care of them as well, don't we?
correct.
And respect them.
Yeah, sure is.
I was processing that. I'm feeling a little bit emotional as well. So it says pain can show up as shame,
Yeah.
anger or grief. Which of those was hardest for you to accept in yourself? And what helped you begin dealing with it in a healthier way? I mean, you've just talked about your experience now, but I don't know if you've had those experiences of felt ashamed, grief.
I mean, I did. I felt there was a lot of shame about not achieving my goals when I was, you know, I was embarrassed to be in my early 20s because I just spent a lot of time thinking I should be champion. There's a lot of pressure, and the people what were around me weren't taking it serious and saying, "Oh, you've got plenty of time." But I needed to be a champion, so I felt a lot of shame about my age. I remember a school friend, she said to me once, said, I saw an article about you in the local paper. You're not that age. You're my age. It says you're 2 years younger. And I remember telling journalists that, you know, cutting my age back and telling them I was younger because I was ashamed of the age I was. And I'll never forget because in my early 20s, I moved to Canada and I lived in Canada for 2 years and was at a barbecue with my trainer, Peter Wiley. And his wife said to me, you know, how old are you? And I was like, oh, I'm 21 and, you know, I'm really embarrassed about being 21. And she was like, you're a baby. But like at the time I wasn't. I just thought I should be champion by this time.
Yeah. But if you think about your life on the run up to 21, there was 21 long years. You'd covered a lot of ground in a very short space of time. You'd probably grown up mentally long before your age.
I mean, I did realize probably about that time or maybe a few years later, I looked back and I thought, whatever age, say early 20s, thought I'm a very old early 20s. I've seen a lot of life, what people my age have not seen.
Or may never see.
I was out my comfort zone over and over and over.
Yeah. But you survived it. You know, you got through it. You know, talk about that, you know, adversity and those things being able to build us up and to get us to where we are. And I love meeting people who've had those types of life experiences that really shaped how they are as a person. Because sometimes those things, you can either go one or two ways with it. You sort of lean into it. And I think the experience that you had in that changing room was that was the moment.
Yeah,
where everything changed.
It was an unbelievable experience, though.
And, you know, you've talked about wanting to get to this goal of, you know, world champion. You achieved that. But did it give you what you thought it was going to give you?
To a certain extent, it did. I mean, I went into that fight knowing I would be the first British-born fighter in history to be able to call myself a world champion. So, yeah, it was a great feeling.
When people talk about you finding strength or keeping going, what was really happening internally? Was it hope? Was it stubbornness, fear of stopping, or something less neat than the language we usually use?
I was often accused as a little boy of being stubborn. My sisters would always say, "You're very stubborn," and that's what I use. I think in sport, stubbornness is a good trait, and I think we usually use it as a very negative thing. But I was stubborn, and I think that helps me.
So when you look at the world of boxing today, and you look at how these fighters are, what would be your message to them?
You often hear former fighters,
Mm.
they say, "Oh, it's not the same as when we were fighting."
Mm.
I think it's an improving sport.
Mm.
Yeah, apart from the politics and the corruption,
Sure.
I think for the fighters, they're improving all the time.
Mm.
I think they're going to get as people think they're not as good as we were, or I think that's a lot of rubbish.
Mm.
I commend them. They're doing a great thing. We've got a lot of sports science now involved in the game, so they're pushing themselves to the limits, and they're getting rewarded really well. So yeah, I think it's the sport. It's the boxing part of it with the boxers is a great thing.
Yeah. In boxing, though, there's been quite a lot of stories of mental health, and Ricky Hatton more recently, taking his own life, which was extremely sad.
Very sad. Yeah.
Very sad indeed. I didn't have the I never met him, but
Yeah.
I'd met people who have, and they said he was such a wonderful, genuine gentleman, but had demons.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Ricky as a young, I think probably 18, 19-year-old, and we was boxing out at the same gym for a little while, and I remember him cheering me on while I was working hard, and he was working hard, and he was shouting encouragement to me, and I was thinking, by that time I'm a former world champion and a Commonwealth middleweight champion. I'm two division champion, and I'm thinking, this kid's shouting, encouraging me. Thought, what's happening here? So he's a massive character.
Yeah.
And yeah, he had a massive fan base because of who he was and how he was before he even became world champion.
He's a character. So, we're just coming towards the end now, Paul, and but I've got one more question for you. And if you could sit with your younger self 5 minutes, with no pressure to be strong or brave, what would you honestly say to him?
Yeah, I'd probably say it's going to be a bumpy road. You're going to get there, but just hold on. Don't give up.
Yeah. Paul, is there anything else you'd like to add? Is there any bits that you would like to talk about? Anything else that you'd like to share? Do you want to share a little bit more about your book?
Yeah, I mean, my book is it's a honest take on my life.
Do you think that so writing a book
Yeah.
writing a book about your life, an autobiography, in a sense, does take a lot of courage, because you're exposing yourself.
Yeah.
Everything is in there. You've not, I don't believe, left anything out. It's a very clear and honest evaluation of how things have been with you, which I think is unbelievably courageous thing. A lot of people would shy away from that. So you're going to be open and susceptible potentially to different levels of feedback. You'll probably get a lot of criticism, and you may get a lot of adulation and congratulations as well. How do you actually feel about it? Now it's out there, you can buy it on Amazon, the book's available, you're out there in the public domain.
Well, I mean, at first there was a lot of insecurities there. If somebody phones me or sends me a message and they say, "Oh, I'm reading the book," I always say, "What part of the book are you at?"
Yeah.
And then I quickly go and read the book and get to that part, or so there's insecurities there because I'm a private person. I believe I'm a private person. But then, I've had a lot of compliments, and people have said it's a very honest read, and they've taken a lot from it. So yeah, I'm pleased that I finally been brave, as I say, and I've opened up. It's more for later on, for generations of mine later on, to say this is a footprint, and this is the truth. What really happened. Now and again you read something and you think that's not me. That what somebody's wrote something, you think that's not true. But this is me giving my account, and it's my footprint.
Yeah. So what do the kids think?
They if it's they're critical, and they both turn around and been very pleasantly surprised how the book reads, and they're very happy with it. So that's amazing for me.
Well, you're a very humble man, and you've got a beautiful spirit that I'm picking up.
Thank you.
Very gentle soul. It's lovely to have met you, and lovely to have interviewed you, and thank you very much. I really appreciate everything you've shared and said, and we'll look forward to potentially part 2.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you a hug.